Okay, without further ado, let's get our keynote speakers up here. This year, for the 40th anniversary of the Apple II and the 29th KansasFest, we have the French programming duo, dynamic duo, Brutal Deluxe, consisting of Antoine Vignau and Bille Zardini. Plus ou moins. Okay, and if you're not familiar with them, they've been hugely impactful to my development cycle in the past 3 years, but this isn't about me, so I want to get them up here. They founded Brutal Deluxe Software in 1992, focusing on 16-bit software, a lot of great 2GS releases. The team created programs such as Convert 3200 graphics tool, and adapted games like Bille Art, the Tinies, Cogito, right? Blockade, and Lemmings for the 2GS Lemmings. Just absolutely great stuff, and they remain active, super active, and have since released numerous titles, including Cadius, the disk image utility, Merlin 32 cross assembler, DustHead, which is the disk cleaning utility, great name. I'm Fed Up, another great name, the disk archiving utility, MountIt, another image tool, Fishhead, some of these I haven't even used. And they've done an incredible job working on archival projects as well. They've built an incredible comprehensive archive of cassette tapes for the Apple, and a lot of the French cracking and underground projects as well they've collected and put online. They've also been instrumental in collecting machine serial numbers so that we actually have some statistical analysis around the number of Apple IIgs machines released. So that's been an incredible crowdsourced effort that they've really driven. This year they've been publishing demonstrations for tools to play quadraphonic and octaphonic sounds on the Apple IIgs, and releasing a lot of new tools. So I think that that's enough of me talking about you. I'd rather hear the story from you guys. So please welcome very warmly Antoine Vignau and Bille Zardini.
Do you hear me well? That's okay? Fine, thank you.
Sounds good also?
Yep. Sounded good.
Yeah, well, great.
Okay, thank you a lot. We are really proud for being here with you today and for the 40th anniversary of the Apple II. We are a little bit older. We've grown up with the Apple II, and it's part of our life. And I see that it's also part of your life because you are here. So thank you, and for your warm welcome. And we'll try to introduce you to the Apple II in France, the market, the computing market in France during the 80s. And then we'll focus on what? Brutal Deluxe?
Something like that, but
yes,
we don't care.
Okay. So just to distinguish who is who, let me put my t-shirt.
Yeah.
We're not the only ones putting our names on t-shirts.
So, Antoine, it's easy. With me, it's more complex with my last name because, you know, there were so many Olivier in the Apple IIgs world. FTA has 2. The fuck has 1. Brutal Deluxe has 1. There is also Olivier Guinard somewhere here. Hi. And so, some people are trying with my last name. That's okay. Pick up the one you want. That's fine. We welcome everyone, so that's good.
I've been knowing you for
comfortable.
years. I'm pretty sure that we could find a way to identify you.
An easy way?
Let me find a solution for you.
No, that could take time.
No, seriously. I've had an idea. Okay?
Could work.
Okay?
Yeah.
So another one.
Yeah, okay, no.
No, keep it.
No. I switch.
No sexual images.
No nudity here. Yeah, so we know.
There you are. Okay, Thank you. So as we don't forget that we are only French people, so we try to learn English and speak it. Sometimes we may have troubles. If you don't hear us well nor understand us well, please tell us. I can take different accents, and the one which I am the most comfortable is the French one, but that may be difficult for you.
We will invent sometimes few words here and there, but that's
Yes.
fine.
And so we are really proud of being here to have been invited to you to discuss about the best computer in the world, the one we've grown up with, and so
And the one we cherish.
yes,
the most.
lots, yes,
Yeah, yeah.
every day.
Yes, with a great history with it and so on. So
Yeah.
we are very happy.
To introduce you to the Atari ST.
Yeah,
And
that was nice, and we are happy to share that IST world.
And we are part of the Speedball 2 group, programming group, well known in France for their releases. And we will discuss about the different models of the Atari ST computers. And you know, it may take some time,
Yeah.
several hours.
Yeah.
So if you're
So
ready,
if you have
we can
something to
start.
do, go there and come back in 2 hours, and we will be ready.
Yes, yes. But, you know, no, but if you don't like the Atari ST, tell us. We can stop now, otherwise we can continue. Now, you know, there are about 500,000 Atari STs sold in France. That's tremendous. They sold plenty of software also. We don't know how many, but a lot. But what was the most interesting thing is the competition. Okay? And the competition is our beloved and real computer.
C'est celui-là.
No, yeah, Etienne. Oh, something to note. We brought several items from France, and we will give them to you for you to have a look and see. And if you are interested in getting copies of some of them, please tell us. We may scan them and put on the Brutal Deluxe site. Okay.
Okay, so presentation will be divided in 4 parts. The first one is a look to the context of computer for personal people in France between the 80s up to 2000. Okay, what computer there was and so on. So as Antoine was saying, we have some stuff we took from France, and we are going to let you during the talk. We'll give you, and so you can take one of the after the other if you want to look at it.
And if I'm correct, there are 400 slides because there were 400 computers sold in France.
So something like that. Yeah. So this is the world as we know it. And guess who is the country in the center of the world? I don't say that France is the center of the world. So the pictures make me think that we could be about at the right position to declare we are in the center of the world. We put you aside, we are.
No jealousy.
Okay. So now the idea also of this picture is to see that during the computer events, we have received computer from the USA, from Japan, and 4 other European countries. Okay, because France received computer about from all over the world, and so the 8-bit time was a very incredible one because all the computers of the world has to fight for the French market. And so basically, we were receiving in France the England computer from Sinclair. So from very early, they were introducing computer mostly based on the Z80 microprocessor, and they were strong enough to sell them very well in France. This one was about $100 per computer, which was very cheap. You could make a solder of it was sold in kit, and so they were very easy to sell. So Sinclair was very powerful. They have a lot of software already, and so it was pretty popular. Another one we have to fight with was the BBC Acorn. So once again, it's an English computer. This time, based on something we already know. And it was sold with the BBC, so the channel on TV, with a show that the guy can buy the computer, and they was looking at the show and they teach people how to program the computer. So this one was also very popular, and it was one among the other you could get in France. This one, I'm not sure if you know it, it's a Dragon 32 with a kind of microprocessor which is very powerful. The 6809 is very close to the one we have in the GS. So about the same thing, 16-bit in many registers, but only limited is the 64 register addressing. So that one also was part of the game. Here we have a very famous one list, also the ORIC. Okay, well, probably you have never seen any of this computer in the US territory, because of course for a European country selling in the US with a competition with Commodore, Atari, Apple and so on, it was very hard. But in France, it was very easy. They crossed the channel and here they were. Once again, 6502. So at least we had some computer coming from the US. The TI-99 was also well known. It was a 16-bit, one of the first of this generation. Olivier Gogel from the FTA had this as the first computer. He switched quickly to the Apple II, but he learned how to program with that one. Mattel also was sold in France. So if you were very unlucky, you get that. The TRS-80, even if it's very old, came in France a little bit later, at the beginning of the 80s. So once again, it was one of the choices you could make at the Christmas tree. Atari was powerful. So not very with the early model like the 400, but the 800 was well known. We know that he has very good graphic capabilities. He has the antique stuff, and it's incredible. He had already 256 colors at the time, and wow, he was part of the game. They tried to continue the line as an 8-bit, but of course the last one didn't really succeed. But the one we remain is that one. I have few friends having that one.
You had?
No, that's still France, that's okay. Commodore was known in France for the 8-bit. The VIC-20 was sold, but of course the C64 was a kind of computer which was also well made, well sold. Finally, we have these two ones, but these two ones in France was only for professional people. You go to the dentist, it's a computer you can see. You go in the computer lab, this is a computer you can have, and so on. So as people like us, it was impossible to reach, because this configuration was sold, and this one, for about $2,000, when you can have other one at $300. So if you want that on your desk, you have to pray, or like we did, our father was working with this kind of computer, so we could get them at home for time to time, vacation and so on. But for real people, it was nearly impossible to get. So you can see them in business, you can see them in factory everywhere, but not in people's houses. Matra was a very, so I guess this one you don't know them also. Matra is a defense company. They make missiles to kill people, that's nice guy. But they tried to enter the computer business in early '83. And so, here it is.
I will open, just
talk. But there's something I want to show about the computer. So, it was sold with two books, one for basic, one for assembly, which is good. So you can get them, and what is the magic in France is every computer of the area was sold with that. And this is a SCART cable. And we name in France Prix Spiritel. And every TV sold in France since 1980 has a SCART directly in the back of the TV. It means that for the 80s, all the computers you have seen here, perhaps not the ZX80, but nearly all the other ones send directly RGB to the TV. And so we have a very clear picture. Unless the composite video, which is a nightmare, we can see here, even for advanced systems like Dreamcast, in the US, when I was playing with Dreamcast, the image was terrific, very bad on the US TV set. Hopefully in France, we had RGB from the beginning. And so this little computer you can buy for $300, you plug on the TV, and the picture is very sharp. You can program, you can do something. Your ears, your eyes is not going to cry. Philips, French company, sold also the VG5000. I guess you have never seen it. Because around 83, 84, all technical company, all electronic company in France has tried to sell or to create a computer, all based on 8 bits, a microprocessor, all having about the same capabilities, but they try to get the market. Excel Vision is another one, French also, and that interesting part where the keyboard and the controller use IR, infrared connector. So you have not any cable. They have a very good tennis game, but that's it. All this kind of computer didn't really get attention from the publisher. Thomson, another French company, sold all of this very well because in the beginning of the 80s in France, the French government decided to put computer in all the schools. Okay, a little bit like Apple here. Thomson won the deal, and so they had to equip all the French school with one of these two computers. So they sold hundreds of them, thousands of them, but clearly for home usage, they were pretty bad. And this is a light pen, so you can touch the screen and you recognize where you click with the pen. Okay, and this is not, and this is a ROM cassette. And of course, you have a tape outside.
And I have a story about Thomson. As it had to go into every school, they wanted a basic programming language incorporated into it. So they've tried to put a French version of BASIC, and they've ended with a Microsoft one, written in English, copyright Microsoft, etc., etc. And it was badly received, but it was sold like that.
Thomson, because of the fact they sold much more than the other, continues after 1986 to try to introduce new ones. But of course they failed very quickly because at this date, in front of them, they already have the 16-bit generation. Okay, so they tried, but they didn't go very well. The one who win and kill all the other one in France was that one. I'm not sure if you know it, but Amstrad was an English company. And they was not in the computer business before 1984. They were doing electronics, like CD player, thing like that. And they entered pretty late in the run. And what they proposed was a computer with a tape inside and the color monitor inside. Because all the other one previously, most of the time you have to buy the computer in one way, try to find a tape player, try to make it work, and try to find a monitor. The idea of Amstrad was to say, okay, let's sell something together. And so you plug it directly and it works. And this one was a cassette drive inside, and this one has a disk drive. And it was a 3-inch drive, not a 3.5. Okay, so they are pretty rare. And it was a way to protect the market and to sell, of course, free thing. So from 1995, I would say, because we always need 1 or 2 years before the computer enter really the market, up to the next 3 years, up to 1988, they had nearly everything. So even, of course, if the previous generation was owned by some of the people, most of the school and most of the one, except probably for that one, but most of the guy who need something to play with went to Amstrad. It was not very expensive. They have a very good capability, 16 color, and it's a pretty capable computer. Now, as you can understand, fighting each other at the same generation, you have 20, 25 different computers. And very few of them receive software from official companies. So most of them, you buy the computer and you have nothing. So the only thing you could do with computer like that was to program, because of course you can't buy game. And so this was sold every week, and it was full of program to type. Okay. So what they learned from this generation is even if you couldn't play with it, like you could do with the Commodore 64, the Atari 800, the Amstrad. With all the other one, like the small Alice you have in your hands, you have to program because there was nothing else to do. And this was popular. It was on the, you can buy it every week, and every week everyone was typing to make a program. Of course, the next week you have the list of the correction of the previous week, because when you look at the listing, you can't imagine it works for the first time. And with hundreds of lines of hexadecimal value to enter and so on. But if you had one of these computers, the only way to find something to do was to buy this magazine. And so this one was also popular. The version you have here is the release where they have tested the Apple IIgs.
And for the story about Hebdogiciel, a guy in France has recently retyped all listings by hand. And everything is available on the web. I don't have the address, but there are a high number of software available. And as Olivier just said, some of them don't work at all.
Of course. But it's part of the game. It's how you learn. So you have to type. You are good of typing. And after you debug, so you are good of debugging. If you were in France at the time, there are at least 2 other magazines you can't ignore. This one was Science and Life Micro. So it was for microcomputer stuff. So it's not only game, it's microcomputer and new software and things like that. So once again, this is the time when they tested Apple IIgs. And if you were a gamer, or if you were younger, the only thing you care about is this. And it was available once a month. And so this is only video game and computer things. And unlike Computer Gaming World that I was sometime reading, this is in full colors, and you have a lot of software and game tests in every one. So arcade game, computer game, also console, like Sega, Nintendo, and so on. So the conclusion of the 8-bit part was a lot of people trying to enter the market, but very few would succeed. And at the end of this time, in '86, all the previous companies who have tried in computer quit the computer market. And what we found is, as a 16-bit possibility, only 4 computers. And these 4 ones always start with an A. It's the Atari ST, the Amiga, the Apple IIgs, and the Archimede. So, and the only 4 ones. I will never speak about the IBM PC and compatible because they were nowhere in France. Once again, it was worse than the Apple II. It was a professional PC. So you don't have any joystick, you don't have any sound card. Most of the time there is no graphic card, there is no game, it's very expensive, it's big, it's heavy. It's only, so no one has never had a PC. When we say PC, it means IBM PC and compatible. We don't say PC for an Apple computer or Atari and so on. So for IBM PC and compatible, in the company, in the factory somewhere, but never in home. Macintosh, 84, very expensive. You don't play with a Macintosh, you don't program with a Macintosh, you don't make fun with a Macintosh. So once again, the early Macintosh as we know it, and even in 1987 with the Macintosh 2, it was the price of the car in France. So you have a choice, you buy a car or buy a Macintosh 2, it was easy to do. And if you look where to put the joystick, of course you can't. So Macintosh, once again, was for the guy who need to print something and so on. So clearly not in the competition. The real winner in France was the Atari ST. Finally, here we are.
So we are done, goodbye.
With 2 important dates. First one is the introduction of the ST, but what is more important is the introduction of the Atari STF, with the drive inside, with the double drive 720K and so on. And the Atari ST itself was sold about $600 at the time. You can add a monitor, but you can, once again, with a SCART, you can put on the TV, so that's easy to use. The external drive for the Apple IIgs cost about the same than the Atari ST, just to give you an idea. So the Apple IIgs in France it's $3,000. This is $600. So no doubt that when you have to choose, you get that one. And it was very early in the game. It's a cool computer. It's easy, it can read IBM PC disk. It does a good job. Arkanoid was terrific on it, and so on. So for the first time, on the 60-bit, it was the first to bring on the market. You say, wow, that could be cool. And all the other guys who spend hours with all of this shit, with the impossible capability to do anything, when they saw this one, they say, why not? And they are waiting, and so finally a computer at $600 was capable to bring something at about the same level than arcade game, with 500 color in the palette. So a very new step. 8-bit time was over, and there is a step between everything before and that one. So it sold pretty very well. The second one, who was about at the same level, was the Amiga 500. But the first Amiga was the 1000. And the 1000 didn't sell very well. For the same reason that the Apple IIgs, they target for market at a very high price. It's a workstation, it has terrific capability in graphics and so on. So, of course, no one buys that. But this one, once they understood that the Mac 2 came on the market with a professional thing and so on, everyone has forgotten that it was supposed to be the graphic computer. No one will never use a computer with only 4,000 color when the Mac 2 can bring you million and so on. For professional, went to Mac 2 or to PC. And what they did, probably is a good move, in 1988, they moved it as a game machine. So very close to the Atari ST in the look, very far for the first shape. It was sold about $700, so a little bit more than the Atari ST, but it was okay. Of course, it's still a little bit better computer for graphics, much more better for sound, and it's a kind of computer where game was very good, but clearly at the beginning, the financial situation of Commodore was bad. Everyone was baiting and say, okay, Commodore is going to be destroyed in the next few months and so on. So people have tried or very hesitate to buy this one because they was very sure. Commodore was in a very bad shape. They was very late with the Amiga. No one was very sure they could survive. So it took a little bit time for the Amiga to raise, but the Atari ST has a very big advance. And the advantage of these two computers are they are sharing the same microprocessor, they have about the same definition. So every game made for the Atari ST was easy to duplicate on the Amiga. So the chance Amiga had at the beginning, they received a lot of copy of ST game with the same level. So for Amiga that can do better, it's a bad idea or it's a bad luck. But in the other way, probably that if they had to redo everything with another processor, another logic, probably they would never receive so much game. So let's say that the two shared about the same mouse, the same joystick, the same floppy drive, the same screen, and so on. So in the market in France, let's say 50-50. 50 for the 60 for the Atari ST, 40 for the Amiga, and during the time, it has changed. Amiga has took a little bit more, but once again in France, since 1989, everyone has an Atari ST or Amiga. Some guys.
Oh.
Take that one. As you can see, the only release date is that one. They never update, as you know it. It was very expensive. All the guys we knew at the time who was an Apple II, had an Apple II, never could afford that one. So we lost a lot of Apple II users since the Apple IIe, who was the Rolls Royce of the computer, as they said. It's very expensive, but that's terrific. You have Wizardry, you have Ultima, you have things that you can't find elsewhere. But for the Apple IIgs, there is no real advantage comparing to the Amiga or the ST, and the price make it 3 or 4 times more expensive. So clearly, you really have to love your Apple II to invest in that one. So in France, probably they sold between 10,000 and 20,000 GS, not that much. Just for the record, the FTA guys, so Gogel, Badimètre, and Denis, Baricot, they have 3 Apple II users. They were Apple II users. They were making things under the name ACS, Flobinoid, and so on, the Apple IIe. And they were very lucky to get, for very cheap, an Apple IIgs, to continue on the Apple IIgs part, and so create of the FTA game and things that we know it. And how do they could afford the Apple IIgs? Simply because at the Apple
at the end of the Apple Expo 1987,
Apple was ready to trash the Apple IIgs we were using at the show, and they knew someone who can get them back, and they had for $200 or something like that. So if we have everything that the FTA did is just by chance, by luck, just because at the end of the Apple Expo 1987, the three get their GS for very low price. And so the price of $3,000 is for the base unit, the color monitor, and one drive. But in France, Antoine will, in the next part, will describe Apple in France from the beginning, and so he will come back a little bit on the GS. Here, it's more the GS in the computer part, the computer history in France. So, Atari ST 60%, Amiga 40%, Apple IIgs
0.
Okay.
We have a question.
So the American computers were generally more expensive, right?
Apple policy put the Apple IIgs as a professional computer, as they did for the Apple IIc and Apple IIe. They didn't see that in front of them.
It was not for the mass market.
They had other Atari and Commodore US company that put it very down. Now the difference between Apple, Atari and Commodore is Atari and Commodore was founded by Tramiel. Tramiel was a European guy. He survived the Holocaust and so on. So Tramiel has understood that the competition in the US against Apple, against the other, could be very difficult. But the competition in Europe, Apple was not that good than it was in the US. So they put all the energy to sell the Atari ST and the Amiga, both foreign Tramiel company, in France and in Europe. This is why Atari ST and Amiga was very strong in Europe, and in the US, about like the GS in France, it's not really on the landscape.
Wage levels in Europe lower than wage levels in the United States at that time? Because I was wondering, you're looking at your market, you're probably trying to reach persons with a certain middle class or...
Yeah, but my understanding of the US market at the time was an 8-bit area with the Commodore 64, the Apple II, the Atari 8-bit, stay for a long time, and so the PC take over. In France, we had an 8-bit area, we end up at 1988, a 16-bit area without any PC and things like that, up to 1995, and so the PC win. But this time, let this kind of computer, for example, the Atari ST has 2,000 games. The Amiga has 3,000 games. The Apple IIgs has
250 games.
250 games. And I put our shareware into.
Yeah. 254.
So if I really count the one you could really buy in a shop, you are more in 200. But the way they design software in this time was very easy. And you can see in the tilt I was showing, there was publisher, and the market is only Europe. So when you create a game for this computer in Europe, it was pretty bad to send them in the US to be sold. First, because the piracy sends the game much faster than the real market. So probably that in the US, you never see half of the game was available in Europe. And at the time, the publisher didn't have any in-house programmer. Publishers, they were waiting. And all the guys with all the 8-bit computer who have learned so well to type the code, they have started to create things on these two ones. So they were creating program on the ST, knock at the door of the publisher takes the software, clean few things, make a box, design a documentation, and put it on the market. And so the quality of the game was about like that, but you have a lot of. Every month, you have 50 new games on the Atari ST. And you can, if you read the TIT and so on, you can count how many screenshots you see. You will get 50 new games. Some of them came from the US, CinemaWare, things like that. But most of them were created in Europe with a real competition, because the idea was, with a very large programmer base, everyone tried to see what the other one is doing. Every time something is done, they try to do better and so on. And this kind of competition brings the quality of the software at a very large level, but the quality also was there. So they have number and quality. For example, one game is Space Harrier. So you know it because a demo was done on the Apple IIgs, so it's a Sega game, very famous. The arcade machine has two 68,000 microprocessor in two boards, and they generate all the animation. Sega is a Japanese company. They don't care about the Japan market. They don't even know this computer. But a company in Europe, I guess it's US Gold, contact Sega and say, okay, we want to do Space Harrier on the Atari ST. Sega say, okay, it's a few $100, few thousand, I don't care. You have the right to do it. Sega don't give anything. They don't give a shit. They don't want. The only thing, they license you to do the game. So the publisher calls the Atari ST programmer they know for previous program and say, could you do Space Harrier? The guy say, okay, I can try. How did they did Space Harrier on the Atari ST? The guy bought a little camera. They went on the Champs-Élysées in the arcade machine. And usually on the arcade space, you are not supposed to film or to make pictures. So they were hidden like that. And so they film the arcade cabinet. They bought also at the time the Sega Master System, the 8-bit. And Space Harrier was on the 8-bit. So the guy was looking in which order the enemy came on the on his 8-bit machine he has on his TV set. He was filming a little bit, recording what he see on the arcade, and they did from scratch. And that's good. And when you look at the game, you say, wow, but none of this computer and none of this adaptation of the arcade receive any help. John Brooks, which here, we did a raster for the GS, explained us that at the opposite, Taito in the US was providing for raster the spreadsheet, the graphics, and so on. But for the French style, at the time, they had to do everything by themselves. And when you see what they did, was good. The last one was this one. He entered pretty late in the market. It was marketed at the time as the most powerful computer available because of the RISC thing he has inside. He has 4.5 MIPS. At the opposite, the 68,000 we have on this on this one is 1 MIPS. Okay, so it was supposed to be, it was a real 32 bits. He has incredible graphic capability and so on, but the computer never went too far outside of the UK market. In France, there were few. I have seen one, a friend of mine has one. It was a very terrific computer. But once again, the best ones do not win all the time. The one who win is the one who receive games, the one you can copy game, the one your friend have in the school and so on. But it's a terrific one. It's part of the history. Sadly, it didn't go very well. The 60-bit area ended up about in 1995, and so the PC came for the first time in the market in France. At least for 3-4 good reasons. The first game was very interesting, was Wing Commander. For the first time on the screen, we have seen terrific graphic that Amiga and Atari ST couldn't reproduce. Very good sound. The quality of a real game, something that someone on his PC at home couldn't do. So for the first time, I think it's Electronic Arts who did it, not sure. But I think that for the first time, we are in front of us, a real company making on PC something you can do, even on systems like Genesis and Super Nintendo. Other reason, the FPS. The FPS require a lot of power in the CPU, and you don't care about your blitter and everything that Amiga can do to move things very quickly. You need strict power. 300 to 260 color. The kind of computer we have in the 16-bit area was dead. The graphic capability, no nudity. Of course, when you want to look at pictures, the VGA provides you something that the 16-bit couldn't provide. And of course, the last very good reason was the rise of the internet at the time, where none of the 16-bit machine could give access to internet. Not linked to the fact that they didn't have an internet connector, but more to the power required to display everything. So 1985, with Doom arriving, with very good game, with half-naked pictures on your PC, it was done for the 16-bit area. And even if the DOS was very bad, for us it was 10 years before, because you don't have any more mouse. You have to modify the DOS to start a game like that, to expand the 600K and things like that. It was a nightmare. But anyway, they win. And so the parenthesis we have at the time from the 8-bit, which was very cool, and any guys living in the 80s, a teenager in the 80s, it was a marvelous time. The 16-bit was terrific with the demos, the game, and all the interaction. For the first time, we really entered a computer with RGB, real sound, real music. It was, we'll touch it. And sadly, the PC win. And it was the end of this area.
And we are still Apple II users.
And we are still Apple II users.
No, thank you.
That's the real one, this one.
Thank you. Now we'll switch to the Apple II in France, and we'll divide it into different parts that we'll see here. The first one being, if I click on the right button, the history of Apple in France. It's rich. The French market also, it's also rather rich. We won't enter into the underground world because it would take 5 to 6 hours to discuss about the matter. And we'll tell a word or two about us, because we're French and arrogant.
Especially arrogant.
Especially you.
No. Take your froggy bag.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. Yeah. The history of Apple in France started really early, in 1977. I suppose that you know the history of the Apple II of Apple really better than me, especially that person over there. Apple has created a company named Apple. Apple was for European Apple and was responsible for, let's say, marketing and information to overseas. And we have histories, and all information that is provided here is by a guy who was starting using Apple II computers at the end of 1977, meaning that he was since the beginning. And the first companies, as we had no representative, no official distributor, no resellers in France, went to the USA, purchased some Apple II computers, and went back to France to sell them. This is how they did. So you know there are differences in power supply, in voltage, and plenty of things like the video mode, etc. So engineers have also started to make adaptations to the Apple II to make it compatible with let's say the French standards. And this is why we have had the PAL cards very rapidly. We have had RGB cards very rapidly. We have also had engineers working on the early, and you see, it's a final product. This is a light pen, a really early light pen, probably before the one that you know in the USA. And also, yes, thank you. What is interesting is that from ISTC, CDEC, Sonotex, so many companies who were distributors of calculators entered the market of computing, and all tried to contact Apple to get the exclusive rights to distribute the hardware. And one won, it was Sonotec, and one Sonotec get the contract. They, when they became the exclusive distributor, they've also asked the others to go through them to resell the computers, and you will see exactly the same advertisement from 3 different companies, and due to the fact that Sonotec had the exclusive rights, they've asked, for instance, to ISTC to remove any reference to the Apple II, and so they named their computer Punch. Okay? This is exactly the same leaflet. Then, as Olivier said, the computer was expensive, the computer was for businesses only, and so that the first program that we have had in France are mainly accounting programs. And accounting programs like Sahari Gestion or Accounting Sahari. The Sahari being, let's say, not the mother, but a parent company of Sonotec, the exclusive distributor of the Apple II in France. And they have distributed thousands of software, like these business ones for dental services, etc. And in parallel, some people enter the market also for distributing French version or French translated versions of the US programs. Not a lot, but this is how the market has started. And this is what we have. This one here is the French version of Star Trek. I know that Ken will like it a lot. Thank you. I will come to that a little bit later. And in parallel, one guy was very unsatisfied. We still had no official representation of Apple in France. It was going through Sonotec only. But one guy said one day, I want to become or to install the first official company of or subsidiary of Apple in France. And this guy is Jean-Louis Gasset. I guess you all know who Jean-Louis Gasset is. So he founded Apple Computer France. He went then to the USA to take over don't know what in Apple, etc., etc. And even if you don't like Jean-Louis Gasset for what he did because he killed the Apple II market in France, he also started the development of marketing and the reselling of Apple II computers everywhere. He was very active in that field. There were plenty of meetings organized for developers. There were awards given to the best software, etc. Plenty of events were organized. And so that this is a little bit thanks to him that the Apple II was so successful in France. We say that at the end of 1983 there were 150,000 Apple II in France. Okay, mainly still in businesses or from time to time in, let's say, home office also. And then when you have such a huge number of computers, people who are software developers are also interested in entering the market, and we have seen plenty of companies there, like Ciel Bleu, like Ediciel. And Ediciel is well known for the translation of the Wizardry series called Sorcellerie in France. And we have had in France Sorcellerie 1, 2, and 3, Wizardry the third, the second, and the third. And they also did a translation of Ultima the third, named Ultima 3 Exodus.
So they try to reproduce, I think, the same. I never seen the English one. So try to find if that is the same, and I guess they try also to reproduce the humor comics part.
Yes, it's exactly the same. And just to give a proof that the Apple II entered the French market really early, this is the warranty card of A2S11160 sold by Sonotec to a French company at the end of 1977. So I thought that I've already scanned this one, but you can see. And also another one is a document between the boss of Apple, André Soussan, to Sonotec in France with the instruction of usage of the disk to drive. And you know that the DOS had 4 commands: dir, load, and PR#0 to turn off the disk. and it was working in the slot 7 only.
Are you saying that the warranty card by comparison is better or worse?
The what?
That one you just showed there, that actually looked pretty nice from a distance. The warranty card.
I don't hear you well, sorry, so could you repeat?
My question is relating to that warranty card you just showed for the era. Were you saying that compared favorably to the US one or poorly?
I don't understand the question, sorry.
Was the warranty better?
Est-ce que c'était mieux en France ou aux US?
How many days?
How many days?
I don't know. I don't have the answer to that, to the warranty. I don't know.
I can't read French.
You can read French. They say 1 year.
1 year?
Yeah, 1 year.
1 year.
But this is the US. This is the US document. This is only the official US document. There were no changes in the warranty period.
We had 90 days.
90 days you had, but
Yeah.
can you bring the first shot, please? In 19, as I said, Julio Gasset was very active, and in 19, he was making T-shirts also. In 1984, the first Apple Expo was held in France, and this is the T-shirt, a little bit dusty, etc., of the Apple Expo 1984, and it was very successful. There were plenty of booths and people, and they continue in supporting the different people, different developers, and different companies. But as I said, at the, let's say, with the arrival of the Macintosh, especially the Macintosh 2, the support of Apple in France for the Apple II line ended, fully ended. And we have stories of people wanting to purchase an Apple IIgs computer, and the reseller told the prospect, no, please, you'd better get a Mac because you'll get no support for the Apple IIgs. And one of those is Olivier.
So I bought my Apple IIgs in 1989. My father is a teacher, so we get a discount because of education things, so probably 30%. And so we asked for the Apple IIgs. At the time, it was out of the record, so when you go to see an Apple dealer, there only Macintosh everywhere, of course. But it was still on the list, so you could buy it. And the day, finally, when he was there, probably 1 or 2 months after we purchased it, the guy told to my father, I was with him, I was 17 years old at the time, and he looked at my father and said, you should not take this machine. And me, I was here, we take it, we take it. But anyway, it was for me, so we took it.
And what Olivier does not say is that what was done in France when you purchased the Apple IIgs is that software were given to you for free. And the two software are GS Paint and GS Write. You know the American version published by Activision, being Paintworks Plus or Gold or the Plus version, if
Not
I'm
Gold,
correct.
so.
This is a Plus version. And GS Write, you know it under the name Writer's Choice Elite by Activision. So the two software were written in France by people who had access to Apple at the beginning. And the guy who wrote the two games is Henri Lamiro. Does that ring a bell to you? No? Okay, so you'll go to LinkedIn and you'll follow what the guy did at Apple. You will see. The guy has succeeded a lot in the iOS field.
What was the name?
Henri Lamiro. Lamiraux. And then in parallel, Olivier started to explain the mass market for the computing world in France, but also we are dedicated magazines, and two of them are POMS and Tremplin Micro. And what is fun to note is that POMS was published in the first version is September 1981, if I'm correct, and this is before the arrival of the subsidiary in France. They believed the Apple II would be a success before Apple. And then the second one is Tremplin Micro, and Tremplin Micro was more focused on programming, and they made 24 volumes, 24 issues for during 6 years. And in parallel, there were people who were still using Apple II computers, and let's say from the underground world. And there are examples. One is La Pomme Illustrée, Illustrated Apple, and it was done by a friend of ours. And we had nearly 20 issues. And Olivier will show some to you.
This is a fanzine, so
Yeah.
things made by fan for the fan.
Yeah. And the second one is the magazine from Toolbox. Toolbox in France believed in the Apple IIgs and has started to collect all or to contact all developers asking for new software and promote the machine, sell interface card, etc. because the market was nearly empty at that time. In 1990, nobody would purchase nor sell an Apple II computer, especially the Apple IIgs. Yes, edited. Yeah, yes. An example of a book they did with French previous pirates and also programmers of the machine is La Pomme Illustrée. Pardon, le GS épluché, the Pile de IIgs, and this book is the Vulgate for Apple IIgs developers. Everything is really interesting into it.
Without the tools. Because
Yes,
it was
no tools programming, as I said. Okay. In parallel, also, we had clubs. I didn't mention the Club Apple, and this is part of what Jean-Louis Gasset did. He started to ask people to subscribe to a club named Club Apple, where information was exchanged, and also you could have access for a price of $5 if I'm correct per disc, and get public domain discs. And there were plenty of those, and we are still trying to collect them, but it seems that they've all disappeared. And they were protected also. In parallel, one of the most famous clubs in France is called GS Club. It was started in 1989, and it lasted until the new century. Everything is available on our site. They had more than 66 monthly magazines, disc magazines I would say, and for the public domain discs there are more than 450 discs. The list is huge. They did plenty of interesting things. It's very good. And just to Adam, I don't know the date of the CD-ROM. Do you remember the date?
90 something, I guess.
No, okay.
92 probably.
They compiled everything into a CD-ROM. There were also some other clubs like Hyperpom, Mémoire Vive, Club Joliciel, and they all started when the Apple II was still a little bit used, but people, like I said, the home office people or small businesses have all migrated to the Macintosh or to the PC, and so that the last three clubs, Hyperpom, Mémoire Vive, and Club Joliciel, were more focused on the Mac line than the Apple II line. But also what was interesting is that we have had several agreements between the US and French companies for the distribution of software. Like we said earlier with Sorcellerie and Ultima, Ediciel, the French publisher, signed an agreement with Syrtec and also with Origin to have the software translated. And also they had an agreement with Spinnaker, the EduWare publisher in the USA. And we have Pacific 231, Sur les traces du Derdrion. I know that Derdrion is part of the name in English, but I don't recall the full name. And they were pretty successful in getting the US software, have it translated and distributed and sold in France. On the contrary, you have never seen French software from Ediciel translated into English and sold in the US. It was a one-way agreement, but they really wanted to have their software published in the USA. It was not the case. Another company which was really successful is Version Soft. with Version Soft, the publisher of JS Paint, JS Write, Mousedesk, Version Calc, Gestion Tout, etc., etc., plenty of software, had an agreement with Activision. This is why you have had Writer Choice Elite, we have had Music Studio, whereas your name was Music Studio. You see the difference in spelling? This is the French title. They put it in the French word, but the version is exactly the same. And for the record, the guys of Version Soft have worked on the firmware of the Apple IIgs and also on the tools. And if you look at the source code, you will see references to Luc Barthelet, who was the CTO of Version Soft and who did the print manager or part of the print manager toolset of the Apple IIgs. And another one that you may know is that you have Crealud and Broderbund. You know Show Off by Broderbund. Show Off is a French software who was written by Serge Hervy and Pierre Berloquin. And the software was named, the original name was Sherman, and it was sold in the USA as Show Off. And for Version Soft, they sold more than 300,000 software due to or thanks to the different agreements with Activision. Also to the fact that each Apple IIgs in France was sold with JS Paint and JS Write. And the other successful lady, because we had two great ladies in the French market. This is Nicole Bréau-Poliquin. Nicole Bréau-Poliquin, who wrote about 10 to 12 books for the Apple II from the early 80s to the end of the decade, has sold plenty of books. And you see, this is the exact count because I have the figures. Thanks to her, she sold nearly 130,000 copies of her books. This is tremendous due to the market. And then, regarding the other remarkable people, we also have Madeleine Audet. Madeleine Audet is a lady who was very dissatisfied with the word processing programs she had, like Apple Writer, etc. Because the way you cut words in France is different than what you do in the USA, etc. And so that she has decided to write her own word processing program named Gribouille, like draft, and it was dedicated to it, to writing books. And we have a book at home that way written with Gribouille. So it was a powerful software. And then the last remarkable people is Pierre Berloquin from Crealud. He wrote a game, a network game. There were 3 booths in Cité des Sciences or Centre Georges Pompidou, which is a museum for modern art, in 1984. And you were 3, each one in your booth, and you could exchange with others, wander through a virtual world. You could or not discuss, tag the walls, etc. And there were Apple IIs behind that. Each booth has an Apple II, connected through symbiotic devices, connected to a network, and everything was managed that way. It's very powerful, and one of our objectives is to have it live again in the next couple of decades, I would say. And maybe you also know Chris Marker. Chris Marker, the US-French person who was full artist, writer, filmmaker, etc. And also one of the first guy to use Hypermedia. And at the Centre Georges Pompidou in Paris, if you go in the basement, you will see one of his works. And it was connected through different Apple IIs and connected to the TV sets, TV antennas to display information from all over the world, etc. And he also writes Dialector. Dialector is an ELISA type of game, and everything is written from scratch by him. And also, he was a real power user of HyperStudio by Roger Wagner Publishing, where he exchanged a lot with him to satisfy his needs. And now, a quiz for you, because we are talking, but we would like you to talk a little bit. What do the software here for the Apple IIgs have in common? And you have 30 seconds, and Dagan may have the answer, probably.
They were also made for Mac.
So we all come out for the Artorias team first?
No, because Shufflepuck Cafe was made on the Macintosh at first. But yeah. Yes, they all came from France, they all came from the same companies, they all came from the same set of 5 students in France, named Ordigram, and Alexis Martial and his friends. And they invented, let's say, at that time, at the end of the 1980s, what I would call, even though it may be not correct, the first software factory for multi-platform. They had Ordigram, let's say, a subsidiary of Infogram, the developer, the publisher of plenty of games. So they had access to the source code, mainly in C or Pascal, of the different software for Macintosh, Atari ST, Commodore Amiga, and Apple IIgs. And using their Macintosh, everything was entering their Macintosh, and depending on the target machine that you wanted, you click it on Apple IIgs, and then you add Bubble Ghost or Captain Blood or Bivouac. I can't recall the English name of Bivouac. The
North Face.
Final Assault.
Final Assault, thank you. Hostage, Project Neptune, Les Passagers du Vent, Passengers on the Wind, Shufflepuck Café, and c'est pas Bubble
Warlock.
Ghost, c'est
Warlock.
Warlock Quest, yes, thank you. For the story, Les Passagers du Vent was their first software. It was never meant to be distributed. It was just a way for programs to ensure that the guys were good. For Shufflepuck Café, here, it's exactly the same. It was not meant to be sold, just to see if this could be done on the Apple IIgs. Ah, yes! Do you have a question before I switch to the most interesting part? Oh yes, you can say a word about it, please.
Yeah. Part of the guy, of course, brainstormed software. We did the manager, Kangaroo, Transprog, and so on. Has been contacted by Infogram to create the Macintosh version of Full Metal Planet, and so they asked also to do the Apple IIgs version. Of course, Infogram didn't care about the Apple IIgs, but they let them create the software for free for the Apple IIgs, but it was not supposed to be sold outside of France. So
It was even protected.
yeah. So it's probably the rarest game, the real rarest game on the Apple IIgs, because only available in France, and it's a very, very, very good game. Remain on the top 20 Apple IIgs game.
So we'll see if we...
translations of it available for
The manual is, let's say the manual is available in different languages. The protection was removed. The program was translated, and we would like to see if we can get an agreement to have it distributed in English
So
for others to benefit
yeah,
from it.
We need to contact the programmer just to ask the blessing, just to say it's okay
Right.
for you. So it's Apple IIgs guy, so I probably would say yes. But it's ready, it's under the hood, and okay. But it's a very good game, and you can link a Macintosh and an Apple IIgs
Yeah.
to play in network. Yeah.
It's Apple Talk compatible, yeah.
And the only thing that prevents the game to be played in the US is only because it was in French. So pretty hard to understand. Like at the time for us when we were 11 years old, it was impossible to play English games because of the language barrier.
Do you have any notes, any data on how successful your software was in Quebec?
You mean our software?
The French software.
Ah, French software. In terms of sales, etc., not really, apart from Version Soft. For the others, not really. We don't know. No data is available. we've asked every time we meet people, we ask them about sales, things like that, and it's mainly programmer they don't know, and when it deals with managers, they answer, I don't remember. So we had information from Version Soft, from Crealude, etc. So we know they were pretty successful, but also we know that some of them never succeeded. I have a story about that from Ediciel. They published their first game was named Naja, and Ediciel was very proud of entering the French market, and they said, okay, this is our first game, and please, what you can do is, in the manual it was written, please remove the protection. If you are successful in removing the protection, we will give you a check. And at that time, one of the French programmer, cracker, really known, Aldo Risset, did that in 12 minutes, something like that. And so the game never sold more than, let's say, 1 copy. Yes?
The early 8-bit PCs that used the Z80, did they run CP/M? Or was there some other operating system?
The 8-bit area you
Yeah.
have seen, no. On purpose. Video game, basic, things like that.
Okay.
Never used as a professional, because most of the time it was plugged on the TV, so the 80 column mode was impossible to read.
Gotcha.
It was for, yes, training purpose, learn how to use a computer. So you start with your Alice.
Mm-hmm.
As you have seen, you have a serial network. You plug on the TV. First, you can buy a modem, and you are ready to attack the Department of Defense. But yeah, the only thing they were selling, the dream to just program a little bit, and that's it.
Okay, now let's switch to Brutal Deluxe Software. So we met in early 90s, Olivier and I. We were both in Bordeaux in the southwest of France. And we both had an Apple IIgs. You know the story for Olivier's. For mine, I worked during a summer holiday, and then I say to my parents, now that I've earned some money, I would like an Apple IIgs computer, please. So I was able to get it. And the guy, so it's a second hand, and when the guy showed it to me, there was a FTA presentation, a demo in front of it, so I said, okay, it's a nice computer, please. So I bought it. So we have started by programming. We were Apple II 8-bit users, and we've decided to become programmers on the 16-bit version, and to discover the machine, and trying to master it. And so that our first game was Bille Art. And Bille Art was released in 1992 with stupid jokes, the French humor from the beginning to the end. And we wanted to have a full pool game. We wanted that, you know, a pool
Snooker,
1.6.
snooker game.
Yeah, or snooker game. Right? And so we had one ball, and we never succeeded in having more than one ball, so that it remained a game to push the ball and touch the wall, the borders of the snooker. That's it. But then, thanks to the connection we had with Atreat Concept, Callisto in Bordeaux, we were able to program, without telling Callisto at the beginning, the Tinies. And the Tinies is a great arcade game. Everything is moving quite well. The sound is pretty good, and when you started a party, you never wanted to finish. The game was pretty interesting. We liked it, and so we gained some audience thanks to that, because it was, let's say, professional quality. We tried to get for free some boxes from the CEO of the company, and he answered, okay, it's 10 euros per box.
And so finally, we got the box from an Apple dealer who was reselling the Macintosh version and want to clear off.
Yeah.
So we went there and we bought a lot of boxes. We removed the Macintosh disk and we put Apple IIgs disk inside for our friends.
Right.
So and we did the same with Cogito after. So
Exactly.
with the logo and so on. And the thing is, with Tinies, a friend of mine in the high school was doing the Atari ST version, and he had all the graphic available. So just a talk, a phone line, a call, and we got everything. We had the logic and everything. So the creation of the game, at least for the graphic resource and everything, was made it easy because we had a guy inside the house to give us without telling to the boss the things. And the other thing is the game was already prepared for the Macintosh, and the screen, like the title screen, was using 256 colors. And at the time, the Atari ST only shows 16, and the idea was really to provide high color stuff. And we say, okay, it's time to put 3,200 colors in game. And so we start to create what would be at the end convert 3000. It's a way to convert high color pictures into this mode. At the time, we had slideshow showing 300,000 colors, but no real program to convert. And so Tinies, the time was ready to create such a program to have at the end more colorful pictures, at least in the static screen.
Yes. And then we continued with Cogito, still from Callisto. We knew the programmer quite well, so we had the source code of the Macintosh version, and we've reprogrammed it entirely in assembly for the Apple IIgs. And what was the advantage at the beginning of getting the Macintosh screens here revealed flow of the Apple II. In games where there are plenty of colors everywhere, in that we try to make the first version with 16 colors or a little bit more per screen, but that was very horrible, so that we've moved to the grayscale version, and the first version that you have on the left is the grayscale version of Cogito. And what you see on the right is the version that we did a couple of years ago, in 1998, if I'm correct, which supported the second site board, the VGA board. So we've taken the source code and we made it available with the colors on the Apple IIgs with the second site.
So it's probably the only Apple IIgs running in 640 to 400 in 256 colors.
I think, if I'm correct, there is another game.
No, forget it. Let's say that the other is the only one. It's better.
And another slideshow. Okay, but then what was started since the beginning to let's say this year 1995 is convert 3200. We'll say it in France, convert 3200. It goes really faster, and. Olivia started working on it since the beginning, and the routines have evolved. We have integrated support from importing of export of different formats, etc. And then we've decided to sell it, and we went through Shareware Solution 2 and Jocone, and Jocone was the reseller of the product. And if I'm correct, we sold 200 copies?
Much more.
Oh.
The deal was...
just like Jobs and was. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
No,
give me my money back, please.
I did it, so
No, I know
I'm
that.
both on this kind. I have the end of the letter already, so... No, Joe, who was in San Rafael, north of San Francisco, was selling the software for $15, $5 for the shipping cost, $5 for him and $5 for us. So basically we really wanted to keep the software at a low price, and we also make the source code at the time available. So if you wanted to modify the code of Convert, you just ask the source file, so the Merlin 16 source file. For $5 more, you can get the source code. And so we sold, so the first 200 get us our first $1,000 check we receive, and the other part of the money we have never asked for it. So so I'm not sure exactly, probably around 300 or a little bit more.
So what we did also is a CD-ROM. It was times to release a CD-ROM, so that it's full of 2GS software in it. French software and international software also, and everything compiled, zipped, etc. And everything is there.
So at the time, a blank CD was about $13 each. And every time you try to make one, you could lose it. So the Power PC of my father, we are the writer, and so everyone has to be removed from the room. So we put it, we remove the dust with a dust cleaner, and we exit, and we came back 15 minutes, 40 minutes, or 20 minutes later just to see, and sometimes it was missing, it was wrong. So we sold it to $30. and the media was about 15 because it was away. So we tried just to cut in between. It was never sold outside of France because we wanted on the CD to have all the French background and French software, including slideshow with Naked Woman and so on. And so the talk at the time with Joe, he said, I'm not comfortable to sell in the US somewhere, something with naked pictures. And we say, okay, we don't care, but we will not modify it. We prefer to have all the French software inside than to try to cut and so on. So, and for Bille Art, there is a screen in Bille Art, a panic button, or something
Yes,
else, where you see a naked ladies. So the idea.
No.
And so when you click on the panic button, usually in a game you have a spreadsheet or something. And here in this case we say, okay, we click panic, we see a naked lady, because if the guy sees that you are playing with this kind of software, which is boring software, he could make fun of you. At least you say, no, I was looking for naked ladies. Oh, that's cool. And so we received a complaint for someone who was in the US in a high school of girl. High school, he was teaching something in high school for girls, and he loves the game, and he would say, I can't give to the student because of the picture and so on. So we had to find a way to remove the naked girls and to put something else, so it could be used in this private school somewhere in the US. I don't remember where.
And then LemminGS came in 1996, and Olivier liked the game a lot. And so he did everything, extracted the sprites manually, one by one, finger by finger, etc. And do you want to say a word about it?
Yeah, for the first time, we have to fight against a game we didn't have anything. For Cogito, for Tinies, it was easy because we have part of the stuff. Here in Lemmings, we had nothing. Not the beginning of anything. Atari ST and a game, and that's it. So the real thing was how to write and to get the resources. So Lemmings, it was 8 months of work every day. 4 months just to extract each little sprite. And a Lemmings, when you dig, jump, or do everything, there is 20 different sprites. And the way to do that was to have the Atari ST to play, and the Atari ST doesn't have any text mode. So when you reset, you lose the graphic screen. So at the time, a friend of mine was programmers, had a little box like this one, and this is it, used at the time. I never give it back, so I hope
he's watching, you know?
No, I'm not. No. And with this thing, you put on the Atari ST, and when you reset, you keep the memory. And you can look at the memory and dump few things. And so for every string, every screen picked up, it is one reset of the Atari ST and so on. So I break it off. And so it was a nightmare. And we learned a lot.
Yes.
And it was a good lesson to say, okay, it can be done, but the cost is too high.
And no more Lemmings.
And no more Lemmings, yeah. And if you want to look at what Lemming was done, this is all the paper full of notes, coding, and so on from the time. And you will see every level drawn by hand with all the table and everything. So this is all the code of Lemming, and you will see detail like the cursor and so on. So we took the graphic from the Atari ST, we took the MIDI music from the PC, we took the sound for the Macintosh, and that's about it. So 8 months, about the perfect game, some bug removed, but too much for a game.
Yeah, never again.
And so we say that this is why you have something in Lemmings, that if you want to play to Lemmings 2, no more Lemming and so on, buy a PC.
Yeah, exactly. So we were a little bit fed up with the different games, etc., and we did not want to work anymore on that, so we did some system utilities, and we wrote a big viewer, third view, the text edit patch, etc. It was fun using the System 601 at the time when it came out, where the Finder extensions were a real powerful feature of the system, etc. So as we also had the Flaming Bird disassembler, which is a very powerful disassembler for the Apple IIgs, written by Ferox in France, we've done the full assembly of the system within the sources, and we made the French version of it, and we gave it because we had the rights of doing that, and it was for free. But then we had a short hiatus, end of studies, first job, etc., first car, first LRC. And so that's a quiz. Hehe. Question for you. Do you know some code names of the Apple IIgs, and what does GS mean? Yes? Yes? Okay, another one. Gumby?
Rumbo.
Rambo. Okay.
Mark Twain for the fourth one?
No, no. Yes, for the fourth, but I mean for the, let's say for the project of the Apple IIgs before it came to life. Another one.
2X.
2?
2X.
2x. Oh, yes, right. Yep.
2X.
Okay, and what does GS stand for?
Graphics sound.
Okay, another one. So, yes.
Go slower.
Okay. We have other options to give to you. The information comes from the members of the development team of the Apple IIgs. So I won't give their name because I don't want to be quoted. So you have Phoenix, Cortland, Vegas, Mad Max, Columbia. And they say that the code name was changed monthly. And for the GS, there were 2. The joke is the second one. GS means goodbye, Steve. And internally, they said, great sheet. And then we came back, second lady, second wife, etc. And we restarted the activities with cracking, mainly for me. This is a way to enter back the world, because I used to crack some software at the end of the 80s, early 90s in the Apple II world, never on the 2GS. And I realized that we had no information on how to crack software, give methods, skills, get skills, methodology, etc. So I restarted that in 2007 and put that on the Apple site. And that was very interesting to do when you have more time, etc. And then we have started to work again on system utilities like MountIt, the PIF, the permanent unit file, to mount disk images directly on the Finder. And 2 months later, I received the source code of the same utility by Apple. I would have liked to receive it earlier. We also wrote some programs that we believe were missing. Benchmarked is the utility that allows you to calculate the average throughput in read and write of your different produced volumes. And frankly, when you have a CFFA card, a modern way of storage interface cards, take branded cards, branded sticks, etc. Because with low end or first prices, the quality is really low in terms of speed. And then we had fun in upgrading the different tools like the Soundsmith, etc. And Ninja Tracker, just for others to benefit from it. And it's never used, but it's fun to do. And also preservation. I've started collecting cassettes 2 days after I missed the Santa Paravia cassette by Instant Software on eBay. It was one of the first games I ever played on the Apple II, and when I realized I missed that cassette, I said, okay, I will see if there are many cassettes. And we are close to about 664 cassettes at that time, and I know that there are others. And we also contacted, thanks to LinkedIn mainly, people who were previous Apple II users or people from Apple, etc. Even though we never had answers from such people. And we contacted them and say, okay, you did something for the Apple II which was great. Do you have memories? Do you have your disk, etc.? Are you ready to share just for the posterity, etc.? And some said okay, so we went to the guys, copied their disk, realized that the disk drive was bad, that the disks were bad, etc. So we wrote you DustHead to allow you to clean the head of your disk drive. For Tony, we wrote Fishhead to be able to copy as much as possible from files in a hierarchical way of your bad disk. And it's better to save 95% of a file instead of 0, because by default the system would say, okay, IO error. Okay, so you can do more. And then also we wrote I'm Fed Up. It was the original idea of I'm Fed Up is by Jean-Marc Boutillon, aka Dcard, the guy on the ground free.fr, and the guy made fast disk. And he wanted to make a product version of EDD. He never did, and wanted to do that, so I did that. And there are some users of I'm Fed Up here, so thank you for that. And also thanks a lot to John Morris, because thanks to him, I will stop the development of I'm Fed Up, because you will now, or in the close future, all own Apple Sauce, I'm sure. This is a pretty good tool to image your disks connected to a modern computer without using a DD card, CFFA, etc., etc. You just plug your disk to drive to the Apple Sauce, connected to the PC, to the computer. You click on a button, and you have your disk image with higher quality than what I can generate with I'm Fed Up. So thank you, John. And we keep also on saving documents, source code, etc. We've restored the source disk of, not the hard disk drive of Hubert Albers, the guy who did plenty of programs, and the most well-known being Soundsmith. And we also disassemble software to make it run free compatible. Don't ask me why, it's fun to do. And sometimes we write some code for others when they want to start or to build a new card or whatever, and we give a piece of code for them to test. And the last two activities that we have started also linked to the preservation. We've contacted people, Richard Soberka, that we met in an underground meeting in France at the end of 1990, not 1910. It was the FTA Worms party, and the guy came to me and said, you know, here I have a disk. This is a disk. I am the only one to have a copy. I've never released it. Okay. When I heard that, I said to him, okay, give me a copy. I promise I can sign whatever you want. I will never distribute it. But if you lose your copy, you will use a part of the Apple II history, and that's stupid. Oh. We could do better. So he said, okay. So I had my copy. I kept it in a safe, and asking him every 6 months, allez, let's go. Let's release it. No. Let's release it. No. So I had another idea. Say, okay, let's release it the way we released software in the early 80s with a Ziploc bag, with a manual, etc. And he said, okay, that's good. And that's why you have had Zephyr. And Zephyr is an arcade game in DHR black and white, and it runs pretty well. And I'm happy because Richard Soberka, the author, is happy. Jean-Louis Le Breton, the CEO of Froggy, the company that was supposed to publish it, is happy, and so that I hope that I also have happy users of Zephyr. And then we did the same with Plingaz. Plingaz was already released at the end of the life of Froggy Software, but never was sold well. But it was weirdly copy protected, and there were ways of now to use it on a modern computer. And yeah, the version never distributed, so we did that, and that was good, published the same way. And recently, let's say a week before KansasFest, we released a new software for the Apple II named La Crapule, or the Villain in English. We started it from scratch. It is originally a software on the Macintosh that is an adventure game with graphics. And we said it's a shame we never had that software on the Apple II. So we wrote it on the Apple II, and thanks to Peter Ferry, we were even able to put it on the 5.25 inch discs. So thanks to him for the compressor utility and packer utility. And if you want a copy, tell me. I came with 2,000 floppy disks and manual. We have plenty of them here. And the game is available in French, in English, and we hope to release other software like this. This is pretty good. And now let's switch to the second part of what we do now.
I think we have 15 minutes left. That's fine. Okay. So we are about still in the schedule. Thanks for being quiet. So from what we learned from the time, the idea was, okay, we can do game. We know how to do game, but the way we did game was not probably the right way. And the thing is, when we think about development of game for example, Nintendo game and station, no one never programming the Nintendo with a Nintendo. You use a PC to program the Nintendo. So you need a bigger something to program a smaller machine. You do not program with your iPhone, you use a big PC to program the iPhone and so on. So clearly, the logic to say, okay, let's try to use modern PC for creating new software for the Apple IIgs was logic in a way that you do your everyday job, increasing your productivity, simply that. Many times the Apple IIgs inside has his limits. The size of the screen is one of them, the speed is one of them, the fact that when you crash you have to restart and so on. So quickly the idea was to recreate everything we need on the PC or Mac and so on, just to create the next generation of Apple IIgs game. And the idea was, okay, if I have one game to do, I will probably do it in the old ways. That will be faster. But let's imagine if we have 50 games to do, we probably will gain some time if we recreate everything in a modern way. So this is what we have started a few years ago, step by step, by releasing a part of the tool chain. So what we already have is Merlin 32 assembler. So one of the issues we have with Merlin 16 was the number of, you can't reassemble a large file, especially where you have a lot of segments crossed together with external labels. The number of external labels is limited to
256.
And so when you have to disassemble and reassemble things like Finder and so on, you reach these limits. So clearly, and we are user of Merlin 16 for 20 years and more, so clearly it's not the best assembler we had at the time. It's something a little bit weird, but basically it's the one where most of the Apple IIgs was written in. So keeping the Merlin syntax was probably a good idea. So we did this assembly. So now we have a low-level layer capable from assembly language to create Apple IIgs OMF file ready and so on. We also have in-house a disassembler, not ready to be distributed, but one day it will be. We also was requiring a simulator, something you can go step by step, something you can count the number of cycles and so on. So when we do a part of code, we go in the simulator, no more in an emulator or in the real GS, just to make step-by-step thing and to control, to have some break part and so on. What we learned from Lemming's time is catching the resource of the game is more complex than to program the game itself. And the problem we have now with Apple IIgs game, you can be an Apple IIgs programmer, you need graphics, you need sound, you need music and so on. So if you try, as we did with Bille Art, if you try to create your own game, you are be very limited by your own creativity and the fact that it could be very ugly, very, very fast. On the Apple IIe, that's okay. You can do your own graphics, that could be okay. But for the Apple IIgs, you need to be an artist. If you make graphics, you need to be an artist if you want to make the music. The programmer can do everything. They are pretty rare, the guy who could do everything. And especially now with a little number of programmers, the idea was, okay, if we have a way to extract the graphic for any game, not in 4 months, but in one afternoon, that will be cool, okay? So we can extract graphic, music, sound, and so on. Sometimes we use the resource catcher, so a program named Studio that you don't know yet, but one time you will have. It's pretty impressive. I can rip all the resource. It's something like less than 1 afternoon. There is some game you need 50 minutes to get everything. It's magic comparing to the little things that are REST, the reset button, and the nightmare of forgetting everything. The file converter was also to get MIDI file automatically converted, to get GIF and so on. All the file you need in extra format to get directly on the GS is done now automatically. Cadius is simply this utility for the toolchain to automatically put the binary in a way the GS can use it. There is also some algorithm, LZ4, sorry, there is a mistake. So we found that rewriting some parts can be very useful. The LZ4 was a very good surprise as a shrinker that is very fast to unshrink, very low to shrink, but we don't care in this kind of game because we only unshrink. A sprite compiler, we make a study on the website to say that the new technology can be very useful for fast animation and things like that. And we're also working on a small C compiler. What we find with the GS is there was a missing link in the logic of the GS. We have a powerful computer, but an Apple soft that can't do anything with it. We have a real C compiler, but it's too nice, too complex. Every time Antoine disassembles C, we laugh for 10 minutes to say that for a basic thing, there is 10 lines of stack call and so on. So it's a nightmare. And everyone who try to recompile C code to make an Apple IIgs game would say it's impossible, too slow. Because a real C compiler is very nice if you do a spreadsheet, but if you do a game where we don't care about few things, if you don't care about the real number you have, it could be plus minus one and something like that. So if you are ready to skip some of the exact result for some elements, you can be much, much more faster. Okay, and we have a lot of game engine who are writing in C that could be easily put on the GS, but the real C compiler is too complex. As you can see, Orca C has been released, but it is written in Pascal. So everyone was expecting the source code, and we got it. We see Pascal, and we say, okay, we can't really do something with it because we are not to rewrite the Pascal in C to get a C compiler. So we are starting our C compiler. It will be not a real C, but a minus C, a C minus minus. Which is about what we need to be fast, and we skip everything which is too long. Perhaps that the first version will be integer, like Job Vos did for basic integer, where it doesn't need to be outside of a real floating point number, because we don't read it for game. It could be, for example, the support of only integer number at the beginning, thing like that. Probably that recursivity will be removed. Because recursivity implies that your function has to be reentrant, and so you can do you can self-modify your code and things like that. So probably the idea is to find a way to have an efficient language close enough to the C, but to be efficient. On Atari ST and Amiga, there is the GFA Basic, which was a very good language, fast enough for training, testing things. Yeah. The first version of Another World, what you know as Out of This World, yes, was done by Eric Chahi in GFA Basic with his Amiga, just to test the shape and the logic. And on the Apple IIgs, we don't have this medium language. Assembly was perfect, but too slow, too complex when you translate mathematics and things like that. C is perfect for real numbers, but slow for games. So yeah, we think we need something in the middle. So it's the purpose of Cosmos. We say we don't go to the moon, so we don't care if we are a little bit right or left. It will work anyway. So yes, the migration factory is we take Atari ST Amiga arcade game and also demos. It works pretty well for demos. And we take this at the entrance of the factory, and at the end we get back Apple IIgs game or demo. It's in progress, so let's say that 50% has been done. Something when it's possible as a release. Cadius has been released, Merlin 32 has been released, window capture is available. And so every time we do something, and every time it's one brick is available, we put it on the website, the source code is available, and so you can start to use it. But the idea of at the end is to really have a factory where the time needed to create game would be very minimal. For early Atari ST game, like Karate and so on, things like that, estimated time to make a game would be 1 week. So you need half a day to get the graphics. You need 2-3 days to make the code. And at the end of the week, the game is done, because it's not very complex stuff. Now, in the earlier process, we have to make your screenshot, to lose a lot of time and so on. It was much more. So the idea is really to shrink the time required to make games, and at the end, we'll be able to deliver a new game at a very efficient way, a fast way.
Very good. So
And,
do you have any questions?
Wait. One more thing. No. In the idea to create the game, one of the things say, can you do the packaging? If you remember the Cogito box, we say, okay, it was a perfect. If we could make the box, that would be terrific. And we say, nowadays, can we do the box?
Yes.
And so what we try. So the game does not exist. The box exists, okay? And so we say, okay, we need to make sure we can make the box, we can make the disk, and we can make the documentation. So we have 200 boxes at home, so don't worry, we'll do the game just to sell the box. So how do we make a game, and how can we find this disk? So they are pretty hard to find now. So I find very old ladies in the US who had at the time a factory of reproducing disks. And hopefully, there are few disks available. And so we bought several thousand disks. Yeah.
Yes.
So we bought, I think, 4,000 disks.
Yeah,
so they're already with all colors. They're very
we
nice.
killed the market.
Yeah, we killed the market. We bought everything. It's secure. So we find a way to recreate the box, the printing, and so on. So the idea was really, okay, we can do that. And it was also part of the work is how can we nowadays, and we can do the box, the disc, the label, the print of the label, and the documentation for less than $5. Because of course, the issue we have today is, can we make 200? Because I think the market is about 200. What is the cost if we want 200? If we want one, it could be expensive. 200 is a good middle. So this has been handmade by me, print in Italy. For a pretty low, you can open and get the disk and look at the documentation inside. They are the same, so if you want, you can split the things. So yeah, at the end of the factory, there is also the box. And we are comfortable with the idea we can do the box. For a low price, of course. $5 is okay.
You should have said 10.
No, 10 is the final price.
Okay, do you have any questions? Yes, Chris.
Where did you get the name Brutal Deluxe?
Didn't you look at the presentation on Atari?
No.
We made a joke with that. Brutal Deluxe is the name of a team in the game Speedball 2 by the Bitmap brothers.
The idea behind the name was that many French group or cracking group always try to make themselves as bad guy, you know. They are teenagers, they have glasses, they play the time of computer, so they are the opposite of the guy in the Harley Davidson, the colors, the bandidos, and so on. So, but they like to describe themselves as a bad guy. And Brutal Deluxe contains both words. In one way, say, we are the bad guy, and one say it's deluxe, so it's soft. Okay, so it's a way to make joke about the guy who really thinks they are bad guys by cracking software. And, okay.
So does that mean you're going to be doing Speedball 2 for the GS?
You know what? The source code is available. But it's available like 50 other games. So, but it can be done. The French guy has done the reverse engineering of the game. He has rewritten the game in C#, but he provides the source code, and there is all explanation about how the graphics are encoded and so on. So we have the source code in C# and you can see on his website, and he did pretty good job. But there are other software that will be done before, because this one does not enter in the 1 week. It's a little bit more.
Yeah,
but
right.
it could be done on DGS.
Yes?
Go way back and tell me about the French Minitel teletype.
Minitel? Yeah.
Minitel system.
Okay.
And when that was effective.
Okay. So French was a small country, and there is one operator for telephony. Okay, and it was part of the government.
State company.
Yeah, it was a state company, a cash co, as they say. So you pay a lot for your phone call, and say they create a system where they give you for free a Minitel, which is a small PC with a screen, a modem inside with a no logic, and you connect at 1,200 baud, not very fast, and you connect to central system. And in central system, it could be the train reservation, and so it was internet before internet, but centralized. So you can't create your own site until you buy a PC and you ask for the government. But so anyone in France has this for free. You can search for phone number and things like that.
Yellow pages.
Yellow pages. And you could, as one guy, you could have a PC at home, for example, and host a small server. And one of these servers was Airtel, and it was a way for the Apple II community and others to talk. It was a chat room. There is no possibility to put software. It was not a BBS. You can download pirate stick, but you could talk. So this system started in the 80s.
Early 80s,
80, 81 and something. But it was free. You go at the post office. Post was a link to the telephony system, and you get one for free. You pay for communication. It's about, at the time, it was $1 per 10 minutes. So it was expensive, but okay, if you have to get a train ticket, it's better than to spend the time to go at the train station to get it and so on. It ends, I would say internet killed it. So let's say that it ends early in 92, 93, something like that.
They tried to make an internet version of the Minitel, but it was not successful at all. There was no interest.
Was a closed system.
Yeah, because it was a closed system, or rather, internet was open, so that it died really rapidly.
It was a full text, but with semi-graphic characters.
Yeah. Yes, Ken.
Zardini.
Oh.
So, if I understood correctly, your Deluxeware CD was never sold outside of France because Joe Cohn was uncomfortable with the content and you didn't want to modify it.
Yeah, it's a half-half.
But I bought the Deluxeware from Joe Cohn at KansasFest 2001.
Oh.
Great.
So you should check what is inside.
Okay.
Probably know that you're a good person and you are not going to enter in the wrong folder to look at these pictures. Ken, we count on you, Ken. Don't go in the adult folder.
Okay.
Wait, so what about
Don't do that, Ken. We will know.
Back when I bought this, I probably could.
No, check, perhaps he has modified the stuff. I don't know.
But did you know Joe was doing that?
No. But we don't care because Joe was kind of our producer. He was helping for the documentation. He was duplicating the disk. He was doing all the background job. He was doing a terrific job. Joe, it was a friend, you know. And in 1992, the market was not that good. So if we put $5 back in making that would be terrific, and we will be happy for that. Okay, Joey was the kind of guy I was eating every year when I was going to the US. So I started to go in the US every year since 1993. So I have visited Joe every year. I have visited Tony in Oceanside. I have visited Becky in Los Angeles. I have seen Nathan Mates also in Los Angeles. So it was a good time, and Joe was a very nice guy. So I'm happy if he was at the end capable to distribute. I don't remember all the detail, but at the moment he said, "Could you remove the picture?" And we said no. And probably we said, "If you want to do it, but we won't." Because we don't see the interest. And the other thing is, it was for the French market only, so most of the folder is written in French. The graphic instead of graphic, music instead of music, and so on. So you have to have a little French background if you want to look at this. And most of the things are the French software. So they are not probably available on US BBS and so on. So it's really for the French market. When you can get rid of your disk, everything is on the CD.
Charles. Yes, Charles.
Between the two of you, is there a dream project that you ever want to work on? You know, put everything that you're working on right now and focus on what is the dream project that you could do?
Getting married?
The dream project is to put on the GS the software that should be done at the time. Just to say, this machine can do that. And so, the difference between an Apple IIgs and Atari ST is, on the Atari ST, they had hundreds of developers. Again, demo and so on. On the 2GS, you have 10. So at the end, 10 people can't do the same job as 100 or 200. So clearly, at the moment, we'd like to say this machine can do much more. We have seen a small thing. I think we have seen a small thing. You dream about the FTA demo, for example, which is pretty good. Each pixel, but the FTA demo they are not demo. If you look at Modula A, everything is not pre-computed like in the Amiga demo. There is a real 3D engine that computes in real time, and it slows down everything. If you take an Amiga demo, it's only table of pre-compute stuff, and it runs very fast, and it can do much more. So if you bring the same stuff, only pre-compute stuff, the Apple IIgs works at the same as the Amiga, the Atari ST. And the fact that you have only one group or two making demo makes the demo, you have 10 demos on the Apple IIgs, 5, 6 perhaps. On the Atari ST Amiga, you have hundreds of demos. And the same for game and other things.
My
Yes?
question's kind of similar to his. You've been working on Apple II software for 20, 30 years. Anything you would have done different looking back?
Everything we would like to.
Is there anything you would have done different in your software career?
The thing is, we stand on giant folders, okay, shoulders, okay? So we hopefully arrive in 1982. Soundsmith was there. Penthouse Gold was there. The book was written. So it was so easier for us to do something that the Pioneer. We didn't have anything. We didn't invent anything. Dream graphic was not there, so we have tried to make 3,000 color graphic and so on. So okay, we put a little bit of what a lot of guys did. So we didn't do that. We couldn't do all of that if some predecessor didn't do 90% of the job. If we had to work in 1986 without any tools, any direction, any way for the shadowing and things like that, I probably wouldn't have the guy who has invented the shadowing. Because I didn't have 8-bit graphic or 8-bit programming background. I start with the 2GS. It was easier. Everything was 16-bit. The graphic is easy, 4-bit by pixel. It's linear. It's easy. The Apple IIgs is easy. It's 5 times faster than the Apple IIe. It helps. You have much more memories. The real pioneer is the guy who did something like Apple IIe with everything limited. Karateka, Skyfox. Skyfox, you see it, you say, okay, that can't be done on Apple IIe. And you see it and it works. And Apple IIgs is the same. When John did Rastan, about that 90% here wouldn't say that it's possible. But once you see it, and the same for other game, now that you know that's possible, you are comfortable, you can try. Most of the people didn't try. So yeah, let's try. You'll be surprised at what you can do.
Yes?
LemminGS is one of my favorite games back in the day. I've seen a lot in retail stores. Which title would you estimate you're most proud of you created?
You know why we did Lemmings? We have never played Lemmings before. But it was the end of the area of the Apple II, and we say, let's do something that we could remember in 20 years. So we pick up Lemmings simply because he was elected best game in 1989. And so we say, okay, let's do this one, because in 20 years, when we will say to our children and so on, at the time we did Lemming on the Apple IIgs, they will know. If we say we did Cogito, Blockade, Tinies and so on, so it was just big for, I would say, the history. Now Lemmings was complicated because it's 100 little guys. You have a scrolling, they modify the ground. So it's not easy game. And it's not a square game like Blood Runner. You can divide the screen by block, or take Tinies and the other one. This is 1 pixel by 1 pixel, and so it's a little bit complex. But it was fun, and surprisingly, it was easy to do. The 4 months of programming, it was pure easy, yes. You make them walk, you learn them how to dig, you create gravity, so after each pixel it died, and you play to God, and it's a very nice thing to be God, and so you create a world, and you see all your little guys working.
And that is Oliver's short answer, and mine is the next one. I'm proud of what I've done previously on the Apple IIgs, but I'm still interested in writing new software. And the Villain, which has an engine of 3K, does things that we've never seen in text adventure games, so that I'm proud of that one, and I hope that the next one will be as interesting and as fun of doing.
We would like to touch the limit,
yes,
and we
exactly.
feel we didn't see it on the Apple IIgs. There is so many guys working hard on the Apple IIe, the Apple IIgs, there is space for improvement. In many aspects, you say, wow, they didn't push it. Because they didn't have time, because the market was slow, because, and it's clear that now, without any pressure in terms of time and so on, you can do those things well. At the time, you have to work. Lemmings was a good example where we have to speed up to one. So at the time, clearly, when you're a professional programmer, you have a specific amount of time to do the job. You can't do what you want. You have some constraints. Now there is no more time constraints. We do as good as we can do.
Okay, one last question, Tony.
Kind of not really a total question. I'm going to clarify the Brutal Deluxe disc that Joe Cohn would sell. He did sell them in person at KansasFest.
I don't know.
No, he did.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he did.
He didn't want to offer it in the catalog because he didn't want someone at a school to get the.
Okay.
Okay. Honestly, I remember the discussion at the beginning when I gave it the disc and he said, no, I'm not comfortable. Perhaps that after I have received things and I let him sold it, honestly, I don't remember. For us, the CD drive was so expensive to duplicate that we didn't care. If I don't have to wait 40 minutes in the room to wait for the disc to be returned and to remove if dust and so on, it was good. So if you found a way to sell it, it's good for him. He did so many things for the community that he can do that 10 times. I don't care.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. We are here all the week.